Which is better to stay young and look younger? Animal protein or plant protein? I will walk you through the dramatic changes with age that affect your ideal protein choice. I'll show you today the best protein sources for longevity based on the recent research, in order to make it simple for you to know just what to buy when you go to the supermarket. What is exactly protein? Protein is a macronutrient you receive from food. When you consume this macronutrient, your body digests it into small molecules called amino acids. These small molecules are building blocks that are essential for the body to repair tissues, to make enzymes, hormones, and to form our hair and fingernails. You are about to discover more about protein in health and living longer than most experts. What I'm about to show you right now is a real secret. Longevity is about preserving your youth, keeping your body young and looking younger than your real age. So how do we do that? To control aging, we need to go back to what controls life on this planet: the DNA, your genes. Now, how do genes work? They encode mainly for one thing: not carbs, not fat, protein. The structure of your body is protein. Your ability to maintain this protein structure young is at the core of the youth preservation strategy. So how do we do that? We need to do two things. We need to get rid of junk protein, damaged protein that makes up the structure of your body, and replace that with young protein, new protein, meaning recycling and rejuvenation. That's how you stay young. And this mechanism of protein recycling and rejuvenation, it worked on any animal tested so far. For example, caloric restriction makes animals live longer primarily because it forces them to recycle the damaged protein while increasing the rejuvenation potential. Let's hear from Dr. Ron Rosedale, an expert in those very mechanisms.
You increase autophagy, which mostly is protein recycling. So you eat up the damaged protein. You are eating protein without putting anything in your mouth. And it's really the garbage collection that will end up determining our health and our lifespan. That's also the difference between living a long, healthy life and getting cancer.
One of the challenges we have with the protein is that on the one hand, protein gives the body building blocks to repair damage, which is good for longevity. On the other hand, protein can turn off autophagy and prevent recycling and actually prevent the stress response. It's kind of a challenging nutrient. And today we're going to digest, quote unquote, the protein to the small building blocks. So you're going to get the longevity benefits and also to repair the tissues. There are three factors that are going to influence that: the processing of the protein, the type, and the amount. The first, processing. Processed protein will shorten your life. If you're going to put protein powders aside, if a protein has a long shelf life and it has a multi-step processing and preservation, it's not great for longevity. In other words, if you want to live longer, you want to eat foods that don't. For example, if you go to McDonald's and you order a veggie burger, French fries, and Greek Coke, then you have a vegan meal that will accelerate your aging rate. But of course, you can replace the vegan burger with hamburger and you're still going to have the same acceleration because you consume processed protein. Does it make sense? So that's kind of obvious probably for you. Now we assume that you avoid processed protein. What about the type of protein? The question we asked in the beginning. I'm going to speak about our goal, which is recycling the protein and rejuvenation. How does animal protein versus plant protein affect that? Let's think about it. When do humans need no recycling, have no junk, but they must rejuvenate? Babies. They just need protein for rejuvenation. Nature feeds them 100% milk, which is animal source protein. Animal protein is easy to digest and supports rejuvenation. So when you want to support your body's rejuvenation ability, you need to consume animal protein. And by adulthood, roughly after age 25, we have fully grown and now we get into maintenance mode. We don't want to change. We don't want to age. But what really happens here is that we accumulate a lot of metabolic junk that makes us age. Now, which process recycles and rejuvenates protein? The main one is autophagy. Autophagy is the body's way of cleaning out damaged cells and regenerating newer, healthier cells. When activated, autophagy allows your body to manage a lower protein intake by recycling proteins internally. And it makes sense. Think about it. How did humans survive all these millennia with all the catastrophes on this planet? Also think about Holocaust survivors, war prisoners. We are built to survive under extreme conditions, on very low protein consumption. How? Via autophagy. Autophagy means in Greek self-eating, but it's really self-recycling. How do we activate autophagy? Autophagy is highly controlled by processes such as IGF-1, mTOR, and also to some degree insulin and AMPK. Technical terms aside, which type of protein should you eat to activate it? Animal protein is very nourishing and easily absorbed, so eating even a moderate amount may satisfy the body's needs. And overeating it can be too nourishing, which can deactivate autophagy. And it makes sense. If you want to activate recycling, now you overnourish a system, it tends to recycle less. Make sense? Plant protein is harder to digest, requires effort, and includes stress chemicals and polyphenols that support detoxification and removing junk. These foods are lower in essential amino acids, and also the absorption rate is lower. You cannot force your body to recycle more because you don't overnourish with protein. This helps us with recycling of protein. But even though plant protein is better for autophagy, the protein in plants doesn't come alone. One of the main problems that many plant foods have is that they come with a lot of carbs, and they turn off this recycling. This is the plant's revenge for eating them. If you eat excess carbs and sugars, they are going to turn off autophagy regardless of your protein source. So together, the plant protein is pro-autophagy, and the excess carbs from plants are anti-autophagy. Speaking of schizophrenia, this recent paper from October 2023 speaks about that. Numerous studies have reported that autophagy response in kidney cells lower in insulin-resistant conditions. High glucose concentration in these cells lead to molecular changes, including the prevention of the normal autophagy response. So what do they say here? Insulin resistance is chronic high insulin, and high glucose means high sugar. Both prevents the activation of autophagy. And also very interesting, high levels of insulin from excess carbs can stimulate IGF-1 receptors, which also can shut down autophagy. It means that when you eat high carb, high sugar diet, you shut down autophagy. So if you're going to eat plant protein, it's better to keep carbs slow, meaning eating vegetables, nuts, low sugar fruits like berries, or low carb legumes such as black soybeans, as opposed to regular beans. Now, as we reduce the carbs and sugar, we avoided deactivating autophagy. Of course, you can also overeat plant protein and you're going to lose this effect. The amount matters. Here, Dr. Rosedale speaks about the total amount of protein, he calls that volume of protein, and how overeating protein, even from plants protein, will still activate a mechanism called mTOR, which controls autophagy, and thus can shut down the recycling that we want so much.
And what controls autophagy and mitophagy more than anything else? The levels of TOR. Lower TOR, you increase autophagy and mitophagy. You eat and recycle your own damaged proteins. There is less mTOR stimulating amino acids in plant proteins than there are in animal proteins. But the volume of protein you eat is going to outweigh the kind of protein.
From an evolutionary perspective, protein sends the strongest signal of abundance to our DNA. Why? Our DNA needs energy and building blocks to grow. Protein provides both energy and the building blocks needed for growth, signaling to your DNA that it's the ideal time to grow. This abundance signal promotes growth, muscle growth, bone growth, at the expense of processes like autophagy and youth preservation. And another point, think about it, we all agree that autophagy is critical for health, and autophagy is a protein recycling mechanism. Why would the body go the extra step to recycle what is already abundant? Now you may have a question, if mostly plant protein is very good for longevity up to age 65, what about complete pure veganism? Would it maximize longevity even further? I'm not going to discuss the moral issues and aspects that are very individual, but I'm going to speak about our goal, which is recycling the protein and rejuvenation. So up to age 65, we want recycling at full throttle, with a bit of rejuvenation. Pure veganism is missing this second part, and studies actually show that adding a bit of fish protein to a plant-based diet will beat pure veganism when it comes to longevity. And it is my observation with clients I've been tracking for a long period of time that chronic veganism may not manifest its problems in just 1 year, but there is accumulation in nature. Something about this pure veganism leads to some structural deterioration. This supports the mechanistic aspect of rejuvenation, and also it has been supported by what I observed with my clients. This appears also from Dr. Weston Price research. This is explained by Dr. Nicholas Gonzalez.
Price's work 70 years ago completely disproved that. No traditional group ever lived on a vegetarian diet. All traditional groups believed that it would be dangerous to live on a vegetarian diet. Even the ones that had a high percentage of plant-based carbohydrates go up to the high Andes, and it was largely grain-based. But they also some value in animal products. None of them thought a vegetarian diet was wise. None of them followed a vegetarian diet.
Still, you may ask, why some people seem to have massive improvement with veganism? I was asked this exact question in my live coaching group.
I have friends and family that have done it and have done really well.
Yeah, think about it this way. If you take a person who eats the average diet, what do they have? They have a bunch of protein garbage in their bodies. They don't recycle anything. They have a bunch of toxins because our food and environment is very toxic. And the food they're eating doesn't help the body detoxify anyhow. Now you put them on a vegan diet. What the vegan diet is going to do is going to activate autophagy. They're going to remove the protein junk. Plants also going to give a lot of polyphenols, maybe nutrients that the body needed. Also, probably the plants not going to be very processed. They're going to become less processed diet. Plus, I noticed that vegans, because they become vegan, they need to learn about foods more. So they kind of take control over their diet, as opposed to the average person just eat what you give them, like a dog. Put them and they're going to eat it. So veganism can work for many people in the short term for removing toxin and protein junk. But what works for short term, maybe a few months, may not work long term. And for those who are currently on pure vegan diet, I recommend at least 10% of their protein to come from animal sources. It absolutely does not have to come from meat. It can be fish, whey protein, and possibly collagen. So mostly plant protein up to age 65. But everything I've just said will change with age.
Longo recommends increasing animal protein in older adults after a certain age. Could you please help clarify?
The idea is not to have more animal proteins. The idea is to have sufficient amino acids. After age 65, the US population started losing weight rapidly. So something is happening, and this happens also in mice. We had done a study also in mice years ago. We gave a very low protein diet to young mice, but the young mice are perfectly fine. Then we take the same extremely very low protein diet and we give it to old mice, and they lose weight very rapidly, right? Yeah. So then what does that mean? It means that the ability for over 65 person to deal with a low amino acid level is not good, you know? So as you get to 70, 80, if the amino acid intake is too low, then you're gonna have a problem, you know? And you wanna have sufficient, so you're minimizing frailty and lean body mass loss.
That's exactly when a larger share of our protein sources should come from animal sources. Of course, a larger share doesn't mean 100%. Here is what happens. Up to age 65, your body is very efficient with autophagy and doesn't really need so much protein. As we progress with age, after about 65 on average, we return to this kind of babyhood because our protein absorption goes down, utilization of protein goes down, and the rejuvenation system that we have weakened. Autophagy is a mechanism, and like any mechanism, like any machine that we use, it becomes less efficient with time. And after age 65, on average, autophagy isn't as efficient. What happens when autophagy becomes inefficient? Now you suddenly miss this portion of recycled protein and you need to eat more. You need this extra 20 to 25 grams of protein per day that you used to get from autophagy. In other words, autophagy extracts less protein out of their self-recycling, so you need more protein to rejuvenate. So your protein requirement actually goes up. We said that plant protein needs more effort to absorb and use. This is another problem because digestion goes down with age. We produce less stomach acid and less digestive enzymes. Plant protein doesn't make it so easy for the body to rejuvenate. Remember, it's not just about recycling. It's also about rejuvenation. And if rejuvenation doesn't work, you are in a pickle. And that's a problem we face over age 65. The rejuvenation ability of the body goes down, including rejuvenation hormones, stem cells activation, protein utilization, and more. Eating mostly plant protein at this age is a bit of a problem. What used to work doesn't work anymore. Pure veganism can be catastrophic here, regardless of our genetic typing. So it's probably better for us to consume easily available protein that boosts this rejuvenation. At this stage, eating more essential amino acids is beneficial, which comes mostly from animal protein. There is an important note about red meat. If you know someone over age 65, you probably know they have difficulty digesting red meat. And this is also a big problem, meaning that you do not want undigested red meat reaching the end of your gut. Undigested red meat causes a growth of bad bacteria. So it's not so much only about the food that we eat, but the end product of the bacteria in the gut that we end up with. So over age 65, it could be that we need to focus on other animal sources such as cheese, fish, and eggs. Not necessarily red meat, just because of the difficulty of digestion and the impact on bad bacteria. The following is a general guideline and not customized, because as you have seen, different people may react differently to different foods. For longevity and reducing the aging rate, up to age 65, having most of our protein sources from plants makes sense to boost autophagy and recycling. Over age 65, we need to boost rejuvenation and improve absorption, and this comes from animal protein. And the reason is that we need to focus more about nourishment and less about maximal autophagy. So we covered longevity before 65 and after 65. But I promise you one thing. What are the best animal protein sources for longevity based on the recent research? In order to make it simple for you to know just what to buy when you go to the supermarket. This applies to everyone. The best animal sources are going to be small wild fish, which tends to less deactivate autophagy compared to meat, collagen, and organic sheep or goat cheese. The latter is worth mentioning because it has many longevity molecules like C15, C17, CLA, vitamin K2, and even MCT oil. All of these are much higher levels than in cow's cheese, and also don't produce this immune reaction from A1 casein, a different topic. We mentioned the importance of rejuvenation, and collagen really helps with that because it rebuilds tissues that most foods do not rebuild. While most animal protein, meat, eggs, cheese, designed to build muscle, collagen is unique in a sense that it builds your joints, ligaments, blood vessels, and connective tissues, all of which have positive association with longevity. The question is, what is collagen? So collagen is a protein, a whole protein that makes up the bones, the connective tissues, including the blood vessels, joints, and the gut. And these connective tissues of your body, preservation of that aspect of you is going to increase your lifespan. There are many reasons why that's the case. And one of them is, of course, if you repair the blood vessels, you're going to have lower cardiovascular disease. If you repair damage to the joints, you're going to have lower inflammation. If you repair damage to the gut, you're going to have less leaky gut. You're going to have stronger immune system, less inflammation. Why the bones are important? To avoid osteoporosis, osteopenia, to get fractures easily when we get older. And of course, the skin, besides aging, also going to make us look younger. So as you can see, like collagen really it repairs tissues that seems to play an important role in anti-aging and longevity. How do we get collagen? Skin, bones, tendons, we don't eat that, right? So what do we eat? We may eat things like bone broth. When you bake a fish skin, you're going to get the gelatin because the cooking is going to break down the collagen into the gelatin. So you're going to get this gelatinous texture. Gelatin and collagen is the same. Gelatin is just collagen that has been heated and partially broken down. And of course, the third way to get collagen is actually with the collagen peptides, or it's called hydrolyzed collagen. In that situation, collagen is going to give us the peptides. So these are the best options if you want to add animal protein. And 10 years from now, people will wonder how strong, fast, and fit you are for your age. You'll live much longer. And it wouldn't kill you to subscribe either. Or would it?